We would be honored if you would join us.
All right. Welcome in, everybody, to the joint podcast between Expat Stacker and Silver Conundrum, the Silvercast. And we are so excited to welcome our second ever guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Silver 5150. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing great. We're over here in California and we finally got our first winter day. I think temperature was down about 41 degrees. We had a little bit of rain. When it came down, most people didn't know what it was, but we helped each other out there, explain it that it was water from the sky. Yes, it is great out here. I'm so glad you guys had a chance to get me on. We've been trying to do this for a long time. So yeah, I say let's make it count.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
man.
definitely. Yeah, and how you doing today, Silver Conundrum?
Brother, I'm doing great. No hurricanes, no flooding, no sickness. I'm great.
Mhm.
I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, this is also awesome because this is our first podcast with three of us on the podcast. So that's really awesome. So, guys, as usual, we're gonna have three parts to this podcast, and the first part we're gonna be just introducing Silver 5150 to the world. The man needs no introduction, actually, but he produces so much content that there may be some things here and there that people missed or couldn't get caught up on yet. So we're gonna get his backstory, and then in the second show, the second part of this episode, we're gonna be introducing some industrial demand drivers for silver in the near and medium term, and then in the third part of the show, we're going to be discussing credit and other ways of acquiring precious metals. Please note the disclaimer that Expat Stacker and Silver Conundrum are not financial advisors or experts. Investing is risky and comes with the chance that you could lose money. So talk to a licensed professional before making any decisions about what to do with your money. This video and all of the contents on our channels is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It should not be taken as financial advice. All right, so those will be the three parts of this episode. And so let's go ahead and get started just by introducing Silver 5150 to the world. Like I said, the man really doesn't need an introduction. If you've been paying attention to any stacking channels, then you've definitely come across his content, which for me personally, I got to give you props because whenever I watch your videos, I'm ready to go over a wall, under a wall, through a wall, whatever it takes to get me some silver. And you do it in a way that's very like uplifting and positive too. I mean, there are a lot of channels that are like, you got to do it because like, but you feel kind of bad afterwards. But I feel uplifted after listening to all your songs and like everything, man. You're super funny, entertaining. So thank you for that. The community definitely wouldn't be the same without you. But let's get your backstory a little bit. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us like how you kind of first got into stacking and the world of precious metals?
Right. Well, the thing is, I'd been in my current line of employment for, I don't know, about 10 years. And I was looking for a way to turbocharge my retirement. I was looking down the road and I was seeing that the numbers weren't jiving. Whatever we had planned for retirement, it wasn't going to be enough. And so I was looking for a way to kind of boost that. Soon after that, in 2006, I started playing around in the stock market, trying to trade my retirement fund, which you could do, where I'm at. I work for the federal government, and you can move your funds around to try to, generate the maximum benefit. And the problem is that to execute a trade, you have to know 36 hours in advance what the market's going to do. Well, I can tell you that I learned very quickly that that's not possible. And when 2008 came around and the big market slammed down, we ate all of it. We lost a ton of money. And even in 2011, when we had a smaller version of that happen, we got caught up in that one too. So with all of that backstepping, it became a bit of a panic. So I started looking around for alternative means of investments, alternative, asset classes. And I stumbled up on a video by Mike Maloney called Hidden Secrets of Money, 2013. I watched his videos, some of his other videos for probably close to 9 months, and then decided that I thought at that point precious metals were for me, mainly with a focus on silver, given the price points. So in December of 2013, I began my investing, and I continue educating myself, and figured, based on the level of urgency that was placed on purchasing silver by all of the talking heads out there, that I'd maybe had a couple of years, 3 years, and then it was all going to blow up, and I need to hurry up and get what I had to get. So I did. I panic bought for many years. Well, that 3 years anyway. And then once I realized that there was a lot more to the price scheme than I had thought, I decided that I needed to slow down a bit, educate myself some more, but to become more vocal about this event. So I began talking to friends and family, and trying to spread the word a little bit. And of course, you guys might know from personal experience what kind of reactions that'll get for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the looks, the expressions. You get those expressions?
All the time. Like when I explain it to my family outside of my dad, God bless his soul, but everybody else you explain it to, they look at you like you're crazy. It's like, yeah, blank stare, and they change the subject as fast as they can.
Yes, they do.
Like they look at their watch, like indicating, yeah, I got to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And so the thing was, realizing that I was connecting with some people. I think my connection rate was probably about 10%. So if I talked to 20 people, maybe 2 responded, and sometimes in a tepid way. And then once we got into 2019 or 2018, I saw that the powers that be were not about to relinquish the true price discovery of silver, if hardly at all. They really had an iron grip on it, and decided, okay, fine, if they're going to keep me playing this game where they know they're supposed to go ahead and let precious metals revalue, take them out of the manipulations and distortions. If this is the game they're going to play, then I'm going to be a lot more vocal about it. I'm going to open my mouth as wide as I can, talk to as many people as I can. And that's when I finally got the courage to attempt doing a YouTube channel. I'd watched many channels over the years, seen how it was done, listen, and decided I was going to go ahead and take the leap. And I can tell you, for someone who is technologically inept as I am, it is a miracle that I even pulled it off. Even to this day, I still use my phone to do most of the work.
Yep, don't feel bad. That's the only thing I have is my phone. I don't even have a regular computer that's functional.
Right.
So I feel your that.
So real quick, I'm just going to wrap this up. So the idea of the show, when I decided I was going to do the show, what I was going to do is I was going to let people know that not only should they invest in precious metals if they haven't, but if they had already and they had any misgivings or any kind of, negative vibes about it because of what people may be saying or, reacting how they're reacting, that they should not, because they're on the right track. And, the more you can do, the better you're going to be off and stuff. And to feel good about your investment. Why is it wrong to feel good about an investment just because it's not popular? So that kind of stuck in my craw. I thought I'd address that. And then I says, well, if I want to reach, these core people, I need to do things that are not being found on some of these other stacking channels. Nobody's singing spoof songs. Nobody's, writing stories or trying to write short stories and that stuff. Let's make this our world. Let's make it entertaining. Let's make it educational. Let's make it, easy for us to do the borrowing of information and the collaborating to get the best deals, to go out and stack as much as we can stack. And while we're at it, let's just form a society that's going to be loyal to one another to help us continue doing that. So that's how we got here today.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So, that's makes a lot of sense because you're trying to share your perspective and what you've learned. I mean, one common thing that I've recognized in what you said there is that you got interested in something and then you participated in it, you watched, you listened, you learned, and then you started acting on it. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of seems to be like a common theme in your progression there. And in almost every single one of your videos, you say 10 ounces to your name puts you 99% ahead of the game, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense because that's your driving force, your mission there,
Right.
So that's really that's good. That I think that you put that into every one of your videos, and yeah, absolutely. The fictional stories, the singing, and everything. You know, I think most people get it. You know, and most people are entertained by it, and it's not just purely for entertainment's sake. Like, you actually tie it into the topic that you want to discuss, right? Like,
Right.
sometimes the song you sing is tied into, you know, the topic. It has the same words or the same message, and then the stories that you create are also, you know, possibilities that might, you know,
Right. Fictional
come
accounts.
to fruition. Right, right. It's like something that could come to fruition in the future for silver, for precious metals. So that's really, you know, it makes a lot of sense
Mm-hmm.
when you explain that backstory. So let's just backtrack for a second,
Sure.
because originally you said that this whole thing started because you were looking at your retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you first started with the stock market. So what kind of things did you learn while you were looking at the stock market, that you now use to help inform your analysis of precious metals, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
did that help you in any way?
Well, it did. It helped me to understand, what was real and what wasn't. I don't want to get all neo on you, but I did take the red pill after seeing that the only people that were winning in the paper asset markets were, well, essentially the big boys. These are the guys, your Buffetts, your Mungers, icons, all these guys were winning in the stock market because they had people either handling trades for them or using high algorithm computers. They were dialed into the system. They had insider information, even though Martha Stewart went to jail for that earlier on. They decided, I guess, at some point it was okay. And so you had these, big players, these upper crust players, taking advantage of that. And so they were able to time the market perfectly. And that's what would kill the small investor, trying to time a paper asset market that's designed to benefit the other group, the premium group. And so when I look at market indicators now, I look at the amount of influence they try to put on, the market I choose, which is precious metals, to the downside, and how much upward pressure they try to put on the other asset classes to the upside. So, for example, stocks are almost in record territory right now. We know we have turmoil like we've never seen, while precious metals are kind of lingering around these new highs, but actually a little bit below the most recent highs and stuff. And so I look at the direction of the stock market and I see they're about to hit, all of these big barriers that they haven't crossed before, which tells me we're headed for a downtrend in stocks. And that tells me I'm in the right asset class already. Day to day, when I look at different asset indexes. I always like to use currency movement. So the currencies, in the forex market, as they call it, the forex market is currencies. You have the euro, you have the yuan, of course, you have the ruble and the Turkish lira, the dollar. All these different currencies and stuff. But the ones you want to look at mainly, for me, is the euro, because the euro performs reverse that of the dollar. And if you see, for example, in futures trading, which means before the market opens, that the euro is trending upward, it's almost a guarantee that anything valued in dollars is going to trend upward, and the dollar itself is going to trend downward because the dollar is the reverse. So that's one of my big indicators. If I want to know what the market activity is going to be before the market open on the weekend, like say tomorrow, which will be 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, what I'll do is I'll look at cryptocurrencies and see which way they're trending, because they behave just like the euro does or any other asset class valued in dollars. If the dollar is weaker, it takes more dollars to purchase them, so they'll have a higher price point, which means that our markets, commodities, and other bonds and some of these other indexes are going to have a positive day, and stocks just might not. So those are some of the indicators I use. I don't really have much else. I mean, when you shop, you can look and see what the availability is of precious metals, the inventories. You can look and see what the premiums are doing on some of the items and stuff. And that's pretty much our fear indicator, by the way. And that's another indicator, the VIX, or the S&P fear indicator. When you see that is spiking upwards, which means there's a lot of fear, the chances are that precious metals are going to mirror that, because precious metals are a crisis currency. So that's pretty much the run of how I look at things and how I try to figure out which way the trends are going.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So I mean, and a lot of that you you kind of picked up since you started looking at stock markets and stuff like that, right? I mean, you also invest in any other asset classes now? I mean, do you still trade in the stock market, or is it just purely precious metals for you?
Well, it's purely precious metals, with the exception that the retirement fund that I have at my job as a federal employee is locked. It's, you cannot pull it or cancel it or do away with it. You have to let it run its course. I think 62 is the earliest you can draw from it. And so whatever's in there is in there. Now, before I moved to precious metals as a new asset class to invest in, I'd already had some in that retirement account. So those funds are still there. And even those funds I allocate to the bond market, because I think at some point we're going to have a bond crash, and that's going to be positive for that index in my retirement fund. So that's where I play it safe, in the bond market, until such a time it makes no sense, and then I'll move into an index that is about the treasury market. And so I don't deal with stocks at all. It's just, for me, it's just a little too much after, the big losses suffered in 2008 and 2011. I do watch them to see what they're doing, and I do see how they're trying to trend. But when I see these balloon evaluations on stocks, and I see how much effort that central banks like the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank have to do to keep this paper scheme going in the stock market, it's even scarier to me now. At any day they can pull the plug, but you best believe that those upper level investors that I was talking about earlier that have the insider information, they will get the warning, and they will be able to save themselves first, and they'll leave everybody else to drown. Now, the moms and pops that are still in the stock market through, by means of their retirement funds or their pensions, there's really not a lot they can do. They have a fund manager. They hope that's going to do the right thing. And up till now, because the fund managers have had insider information about which way the stock market's going to trend, they've been able to produce great results. And so they have the trust of these pensioners that are going to want their retirement funds, talking about the baby boomers coming up. So I see, all the macroeconomic things happening around the world. All of them point to negative, and it's only a matter of time before I think the stock bubble pops. But I think, as per usual, the central banks around the world will make an effort to stop the bleeding and actually even prop it up. Because if you guys were there witnessing the 3,000 point drops in March, you know good and well that there was really no reason those markets should have rebounded the way they did, given that nothing in the crisis had changed. So yeah, I'm strictly into precious metals now. I've been investing, 100% in them since 2013, and I don't think I'm going to change that at all.
All right, awesome, very informative. Silver Conundrum, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask to Silver 5150?
Actually, there is one. In your guys' retirement, are you guys allowed to actually physically manipulate where you want your funds to be allocated to? And if you do, how often do you actually move your funds around? Because I know with our retirement where I'm at, our 401ks, they're not the same, obviously, but the same basis. Everybody who's allowed to, if I want all my money in blue chips, I put it in blue chips. If I want it in bonds, I put it in bonds.
Mm-hmm.
As a government employee, do you guys actually have that option to do that?
Yeah, we have what's called, I believe, a 403C. And as a 403C, it's basically a self-directed IRA, as it were. And so, like a self-directed IRA, where you can go in, you can open your account, and you can look at the variety of indexes that are available to you. As you expand each of the indexes, it'll tell you what's found therein. And if those things interest you, you can move anywhere from 10% to 100% of your cash funds into those indexes. Not only that, but you can mix and match. If you like some bonds and some treasuries and some stocks, you can kind of do, a threefer. And so, yeah, you have control over where the cash is allocated. However, you are limited to 2 transactions per month. So you better be darn sure where you want to be. And if you place a trade, like I said, you need to know 36 hours in advance. You have to have it in to buy something before the 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time period. Or if you want to sell, you have to sell before 9 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time for me, in order to get out of that day's activity. So it's a very broad, allocation period. And so for someone that, is not that well at trading stocks, I don't recommend it. Someone is, pretty good at doing it, which I could be if the timing was better on it. I still don't do it because the timeline for you to know the trends of the market is way too broad. So, but yeah, we do have influence over that, just in a limited fashion.
I got you. Well, that makes a little bit more sense then. Oh, that's the only thing I really was wondering about, because like everything you've already said before in some of your other videos, and you just elaborated a whole lot more just a little bit ago as well.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's the thing. It's we can actually do it, but I said we have a number of transactions where, as I know, I have friends that work for other private companies and corporations. They have a fund manager, and they can contact that person and have them make the move for them. So I don't even know which way is more efficient, but in any case, it's to me it represents a lack of freedom over our retirement funds, even though it's supposed to promise us freedom down the road, right?
That's what they say. However, only time tells on that one, brother.
True.
So let me ask another question, which is that everybody has their different reasons for doing this, and we can learn a lot from each other. And you just mentioned that you're not really investing outside of your 403c government retirement
Right.
pension. Outside of that, you're not participating in the stock market or anything else, but you still pay attention to it. And I think that's a good thing, because you don't want to just stick your head in the sand and, think that you found the answer and just switch off of everything else. Because, I mean, these things do affect each other, right?
Right.
Now, how much did your time, I'm not gonna ask your age or anything like that, but how much did your time horizon affect your decision to go exclusively into precious metals, because you're doing it for the purpose of retirement?
Right. The influence on that was it was twofold. At first, I was of the mind that the occurrences that were happening in the capital markets were the result of just, bad, events around the globe, and, maybe a little bit of bad policy, this sort of thing. What I didn't notice in the beginning was it was actually a massive, bubblicious type of event thing that was going on. That was going to, coalesce at a certain inflection point and just take everything down with it. That didn't occur to me at first. I says, okay, I'm no good at stocks, so I'm going to go into something that I know I can't bungle. And it happens to be precious metals, the safest asset class. Even I can manage this. And that was my initial approach. I said, I got time before I retire and stuff. And so I was casually buying the precious metals. But then once it came to me in one message,
Almost like an epiphany.
Yeah, an epiphany. Yes, the hidden secrets of money again, Mike Maloney. It created that epiphany, and sure enough, I went, oh, well, not only am I in need of staying in the best asset class or the safest asset class, but I've got to accelerate my efforts, because apparently I'm not going to have enough time until I retire to have something put together good enough. So that's when I kind of went into panic mode at that point. And this is, I never try to convey that on the show to anyone either, saying that, hey, your time is short. I never tell them time is short. You better do this. You better do that. If there's an item for sale on a website, I say, well, time is short on this. If you want to get that, get this and stuff like that. But continue, adding to your stack, this sort of thing. But the truth of the matter is, we are close to something really seminal happening in the capital markets, and I think it'll probably manifest itself around the time that a more solid decision is made on, say, the presidential election outcome here in the United States. And it's going to be one of those things to where those who haven't, prepared to protect themselves or done things to protect themselves, gotten defensive on their assets, they're really going to feel it. Now, it might not be the Super Bowl of, economic collapse events. This might be, one of the hiccups along the way. But, with that staring at me down the barrel, I went, okay, I need to increase my efforts, and I really don't even have time to invest in anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and really double down on the acquisition of precious metals.
How do you feel that goes against what they're talking about right now? Because you just mentioned the transfer of power, so that might be coming along the way, and both political parties are talking about giving another stimulus package to the people, and upwards of anywhere between 1.5 trillion to 2.2 trillion. If they're going to do that, what is your personal prospects on the outcome of that for the silver that we collect right now?
Right. When you start talking those quantities, if you were talking, the standard, you remember the old bills that were only like 150, million or 150 billion, maybe the stimulus package or a, what they call it, the TARP program that was probably 700 billion, small bills, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you start getting into the trillions, and here you have runaway inflation that has to go somewhere. Now, unfortunately, the way the funnels have been created for these different asset classes, equities or stocks are going to be the first recipients of said inflationary activity. Next up is going to be possibly, real estate mortgages and stuff. So interest rates will benefit from that, in the form of lower interest rates because now you have all this money out there. You got to keep the interest rates low so you can handle interest payments. And then, possibly, currencies, depending on how much is printed, in dollars, euro might do better, this sort of thing. The final recipient of said inflationary activity, the smallest funnel, so to speak, is precious metals. And in fact, they might receive adverse action because the powers that be do not want them to benefit from, that kind of monetary policy. But the thing is, once these bills get so big, it's unavoidable. Silver and gold and all the other precious metals will benefit from that. So if we know for a fact that they're going to, exact an additional stimulus of that magnitude, I say there's a 95% chance that we will see, new recent highs from that kind of activity. So that would put us, in the $30 range. That would be my guess.
That's kind of the exact same way I was thinking about it myself. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the thing that you mentioned about the small bills being in the hundred of billions, it reminds me of this comedian. I recommend everybody go and check out Kevin Bridges on Britain's Deficit. He's a Scottish guy. He's got a pretty gnarly accent, but I'm not going to ruin it. But you got to check it out because it's hilarious. But
I can't wait.
He talks about the Britain's national deficit is 1.5 trillion. That's how much we owe to somebody. Surely they've given up once we cross the trillion mark. Surely they don't expect to get that back. He goes on and on about it. It's really hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
I really wanted to post it to my channel. The only reason I didn't is because he uses profanity, and I try to just keep it like family friendly on
right.
For the most part. But for anybody who doesn't mind that, you should check it out. You're gonna laugh really hard.
I tell you, I'm going to tell you guys now. Like I said, I'm not trying to date myself, but when I served under I was in the military and I served under the Reagan administration. I remember all the ballyhooing that went on about the federal deficit approaching $1 trillion. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, $1 trillion. So we're at $998 billion was, the federal debt deficit. This sort of thing. If you looked on the debt clock, if they had a debt clock back then, it would say $998 billion. So not even $1 trillion back in 1988. So, that should tell you, how far we've come since that time. $27 trillion on the debt clock, $3 trillion spending bills, stimulus bills, and it's cavalier conversation is my point. They just speak openly and, comfortably about it. It's amazing.
It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I mean, in the United States, it really is. I mean, not to get too much off into a political conversation, but I mean, both parties are really seriously responsible for
Absolutely.
it. I know people have strong feelings about that, but look, we've had years and years and years of Democrat and Republican, left-wing, right-wing administrations, and none of them have gotten rid of the Federal Reserve. None of them have really, reined in spending. And I mean, if you look at the facts, you might be surprised about which administrations did certain things. So it's they always talk about it like it's a super serious thing, but it's all talk. They never take it.
It is, that's the thing. If you brandish the phrase fiscal conservatism, if you say, spending cuts, then it actually needs to be that. Nowadays, they say spending cuts, and basically what that cut is a cut in the increase year over year. So it's not really a cut, it's just a lower percentage of increase.
The whole thing they're doing is borrowing more money, trying to save the interest, because if we ever paid off the debt, we still owe the interest as a nation. And what happens when you do that? That's called bankruptcy.
Well, it definitely will extinguish the currency for sure.
That's correct. So they keep raising the debt. So it doesn't matter what people say. Oh, I'm a Republican. Oh, I'm a Democrat. Oh, I'm a Libertarian. It don't matter which you are. Whoever's in power is by design of what the Congress and the House and all them guys in there in the big power, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that say, hey, we're going to raise the debt ceiling up even more. We're going to raise it up another 10%, another 20%. It doesn't
So the
matter.
Conundrum, I hate to tell you this, but they actually abolished the debt ceiling this year. I don't know if you knew that.
No, actually, I have not been working too many hours. I'm sorry.
I know that's okay. That's right. That's why we're here to help each other, man. They actually I can't remember if it was McConnell or Pelosi or one of the big cheeses there. You know, they said they're not going to bother with the debt ceiling this year because of the crisis. Because and it's just like Rahm Emanuel had said, during the Obama administration, that the crisis is a terrible thing to waste, and so they're getting the most out of this biohazard, so to speak. And they've done away with the debt ceiling, so it's open season, man. We're gonna get it.
Oh my God. Can you just see it now? Seriously. Infinite spending. New machinists, new mechanics, new jobs to make new money presses.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
that's what it's all down to.
it would be great if they trained those money cannons towards, say, new energy exploration or new industrial demand, for example. Things that we're going to need here in the future. Elon Musk, of course, you were telling me earlier, he is very, very much a champion of these advanced technologies that we're going to need to get into and stuff. And you see, this is the thing that really irks me. It doesn't matter what the administration is. You never hear them say anything that will remotely sound like they're championing precious metals as either a currency alternative or an industrial need. We know it's there. Those of us that have, spent time in the trenches studying the trends in the macro trends, but we can't get any language out of this spending activity they're talking about that is supportive of these real assets, these real industrial materials that are going to make the difference in the future we need to head to. It's really a shame. I haven't heard any administration mention the word silver at all. In like the last 30 years, they just refuse to do it, even though we know it's there, we know what it's for, and we know it's an excellent currency and a very good store well.
Agreed.
Just real quick, you are absolutely right. It was Stephen Mnuchin who said that we don't need to. We literally blew the ceiling off of the.
Thank you,
Stephen. Oh my God.
Yeah, Treasury Secretary.
Treasury Secretary. Yeah.
Well, if there's ever someone to look like a banker, it's him.
Yeah, he's a CEO of former CEO of One West Bank, and he, just a real quick interesting tidbit. I mentioned this in a previous video, but so in California, during the housing crisis, he did they have evidence of over 1,000 illegal foreclosures, including on like pensioners, like old women and stuff like that. And the Attorney General of the state of California's office recommended prosecution, which means they have evidence. They don't recommend prosecuting unless they have a slam dunk case,
right?
Because they just have to have that. Like they 99.9% sure that they can get a guilty verdict in order to recommend that, especially against somebody powerful and connected like that. At the time that recommendation came through, Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the state, and she went against her own office's recommendation and refused to prosecute him. And guess what? Later, she ran for Senate, and One West Bank and Steve Mnuchin's wife and Steve Mnuchin, they all contributed to her campaign. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a matter of public record. They have to disclose who gives campaign donations. And that right there is exactly what we're talking about. He's a Republican. She's a Democrat. Mm-hmm. They do all this talking on TV like, oh, these people are Nazis and these people are communists and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Theater is all
what it is.
They never talk about gold or silver. They just keep us at each other's throats. They keep us talking and they get us so riled up, and then we just completely lose sight of how we can actually look out for our own best socioeconomic interests. So with that said, man, really, really awesome, action-packed.
This is what happens when you get these great minds together, man. They don't know when to dial back,
Yeah, no, this honestly was one of the best, episodes, one of the best parts of an episode that we've done. So really appreciate you taking the time to, discuss all of this. And I hope that everybody enjoyed learning a little bit about you and how you got started and all the information that you shared. Mm-hmm. You got anything you want to say before we close out this first part of this episode of Conundrum?
No, brother. I'm just excited that we got so much information out there that everybody should have something in this that they can actually pick off of. So there's something in this little segment for everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much, and we will